Over 100,000 voices shake the Texas sky. The ground trembles, not from thunder, but from tradition. At Kyle Field, game day isn't just a sporting event, it's sacred. Cadets march in perfect rhythm. Smoke from brisket fires drifts across tailgates, and every Aggie stands, not out of habit, but out of loyalty. Because here, football is only part of the story. But this roaring cathedral of maroon didn't begin with noise. It started with silence. A lone professor, a makeshift fence, and a dream no one believed in. Today, Kyle Field is the largest stadium in Texas, the SEC's loudest battlefield, and one of the most ambitious construction feats in college sports history, all rebuilt without ever missing a single game. So how did a homemade field become a modern fortress? And how did it grow into a symbol that pulses with legacy? This is the story of the stadium that refused to stop growing. It began with a fence. In 1904, on the campus of Texas A&M University, a young horticulture professor named Edwin Jackson Kyle didn't wait for permission. He wanted a place for students to play football, a field where school pride could take root. With no official funding, he carved out a corner of the campus, set up wooden bleachers, and enclosed it with a hand-built wooden fence. The field was modest, but it carried something powerful: intent. That fenced plot would become known as Kyle Field. Over the decades, Kyle Field grew alongside Texas A&M itself. By 1927, the rickety wooden bleachers had been replaced by concrete seating. The Aggies, Texas A&M's football team, founded in 1894, were climbing the ranks of college football, and so did the ambition behind their stadium. Through the 20th century, Kyle Field underwent over a dozen upgrades, each one echoing a growing sense of pride, tradition, and belonging. By the 1950s, as fans gathered around radios to hear play-by-play coverage, Kyle Field's legend grew. Every nail hammered into the expanding stadium wasn't just construction, it was consecration. By 2012, the stadium seated more than 82,000. But this wasn't just a matter of capacity. It was a mirror of the university's identity. Students stood the entire game to embody the 12th man, a tradition born in 1922 when a student named E. King Gill left the stands and suited up, ready to play if needed. That story became legend, and eventually, a living symbol of Aggie spirit. Today, it's felt in every cheer, every yell, every shoulder pressed against shoulder on a packed Saturday night. And that's just one tradition. Every Friday before a game, tens of thousands of fans pour into Kyle Field at midnight. They're not there to watch a game, but to practice yelling. Midnight Yell is a choreographed, deafening display of unity.
Game time, when the Aggies score, we all score, you kiss your date. It doesn't make sense at Midnight Yell to practice the yells and not practice everything else, so we got to throw mugging down in there.
Part pep rally, part ritual. For first-timers, it's surreal. For Aggies, it's sacred. It's not a performance, it's preparation, a spiritual alignment between fans and field. Lights dim. Yell leaders take the stage in crisp white uniforms. And as chants echo into the Texas night, one thing becomes clear. This isn't just a football program, it's a movement. What made Kyle Field different wasn't just its early beginnings. It was the way Aggies treated it, not as a building, but as a brotherhood. While other campuses had stadiums, Texas A&M had a sanctuary. Even in its rougher years, when winning seasons were rare and national attention scarce, fans filled the seats with unwavering loyalty. Grandfathers passed down season tickets to their grandsons. Entire family trees grew under the shadow of the scoreboard. Kyle Field wasn't just a destination on Saturdays, it was a generational pilgrimage. But even sacred things must evolve. By the early 2010s, the Southeastern Conference, college football's most elite tier, was escalating. Rival universities were rolling out stadiums costing hundreds of millions of dollars, with luxury lounges, massive digital boards, and futuristic fan experiences. If Kyle Field didn't evolve, it risked falling behind, losing its recruiting power, its fans, and its reputation. For Texas A&M, joining the SEC wasn't just about tougher competition on the field. It was a call to transform, physically, symbolically, and architecturally. In 2013, Texas A&M made a decision. Kyle Field would be reborn, not replaced, not relocated, reborn, on the same sacred ground where it all began. But what does it take to rebuild a stadium without hitting pause? What happens when tradition and transformation must coexist brick by brick? The design and engineering were led by global architecture firm Populous, with construction by Manhattan Vaughan Construction. In 2013, Texas A&M greenlit a $485 million redevelopment, approximately $615 million today, at the time, the most expensive stadium project in collegiate sports history. But the ambition went beyond money. The goal was unprecedented: completely overhaul the stadium while keeping it operational during the football season. It was like rebuilding a plane mid-flight and making sure every passenger enjoyed the ride. And that meant risk on every level: structural, financial, emotional. How do you preserve a living monument without ever shutting its doors?
We are all confident that at the beginning of this season and next, players, fans, and visitors alike will come here and experience the new Kyle Field and walk away impressed.
Construction was broken into two daring phases. Phase 1, from 2013 to 2014, focused on the east side. Entire decks were demolished and rebuilt. The south end zone expanded to house new premium seating and open concourses. During this phase, fans attended games while hard hats moved inches behind them. Tunnels were rerouted. Elevators were rebuilt. Workers timed their hammering with breaks in the crowd to avoid interrupting plays. Every decision was choreographed with military precision, fitting for a school with deep military roots. Phase 2, from 2014 to 2015, was the west side's turn. This wasn't a tweak, it was a teardown. Entire structures were razed and reconstructed. Luxury suites, club levels, a modernized press box, and new circulation towers were added. The iconic horseshoe shape was completed with bold steel and layered brick. When the West reopened in fall 2015, fans walked into a new era. By the end, Kyle Field had grown into the largest stadium in Texas, the largest in the SEC, and the fourth largest stadium in the United States, with a final capacity of 102,733. It included 120 suites, nearly 7,000 premium seats, and a range of high-end club levels. Architects at Populous designed a lowered bowl, bringing fans closer to the field for a more intimate, thunderous experience. They installed dual canopy structures to both provide shade and reflect crowd noise back toward the turf, turning every cheer into a roar. A new 163-foot wide high-definition scoreboard became a visual centerpiece, towering above the south end zone like a digital sentinel. In addition, two auxiliary video boards, each measuring 36 feet wide, were added in the north end zone, ensuring visibility from every angle. Behind the scenes, luxury lounges and hospitality spaces offered modern comforts. The Hall of Champions, a sweeping multi-level atrium lined with glass, honored past legends while looking forward toward future glory. Even the stadium's materials were deliberate. Over 311,000 square feet of custom-matched brick preserved architectural harmony with the rest of campus. To support the new upper decks, crews had to drill deep into College Station soil and install massive concrete pilings, some driven nearly 70 feet underground. Every element was calculated to withstand Texas heat, seasonal flooding, and the literal tremors of over 100,000 fans jumping in unison. Sound engineers used 3D modeling to fine-tune crowd acoustics. The goal was simple: make the smallest clap sound like thunder. During peak construction, over 2,400 workers were on site daily. Some days started before dawn and ended after midnight. They poured more than 70,000 cubic yards of concrete. That's enough to fill 22 Olympic swimming pools. But the story wasn't all glory. In December 2013, during early construction, 28-year-old Angel Garcia, a dedicated worker, lost his life in a fall while pouring concrete. The university and construction teams mourned deeply. His family was later awarded $53 million in one of Texas's largest construction-related settlements. Garcia's story remains a solemn chapter in Kyle Field's transformation, proof that progress can carry a heavy price. Despite everything, the project delivered what few mega-projects ever do. It came in ahead of schedule and under budget. The final cost? $483.9 million, around $610 million today, more than $1 million under the projected maximum. And perhaps most impressively, Not a single Aggie home game was missed. But Kyle Field's transformation wasn't just about concrete and crowd noise. Its real legacy would echo far beyond the final whistle. Rebuilding without relocating wasn't just sentimental, it was strategic. By keeping every home game at Kyle Field during construction, Texas A&M saved an estimated $86 million in potential lost revenue. But the ripples extended far beyond football. In 2013 alone, Texas A&M's economic footprint reached $4.4 billion. Kyle Field doesn't just drive ticket sales, it powered hotels, restaurants, small businesses, and job creation in College Station. It became a civic engine, a living, breathing economic heartbeat that pulsed with every kickoff. The $485 million redevelopment was funded through a combination of approximately $242 million from seat licensing revenue, $130 million in donor contributions via the Kyle Field campaign, $83 million from student fees and ticket revenues, and $30 million in support from local government agencies. The stadium also embraced sustainability. Over 200 recycling stations were installed. Compostable food packaging became the norm. By 2016, Kyle Field was diverting 70% of game day waste away from landfills. Energy-saving systems reduced operational costs by hundreds of thousands of dollars annually. In 1 year alone, the stadium saved over $500,000 in utilities, proving that sustainability and scale can coexist. By 2023, Kyle Field had become a hub for more than sports. Veterans memorial events, convocation ceremonies, charity runs, and even science fairs began taking place within its walls, proof that Kyle Field was no longer just a stadium, it was a community cathedral. In June 2024, Kyle Field made history once again. Country music legend George Strait performed to 110,905 fans, the largest ticketed concert in U.S. history. For one night, maroon gave way to cowboy hats, but the heartbeat? Still the same. Today, architects and engineers study Kyle Field's transformation as a global benchmark. It's proof that modernization doesn't require sacrifice, that a historic structure can evolve without losing its soul. Populous now uses the Kyle Field project as a blueprint for other legacy stadiums. It has become the gold standard in preserve and rebuild architecture. But Kyle Field's greatness doesn't come from technology, or capacity, or even victories. It comes from the people. From a professor with a fence, to students who stand the entire game, to a roaring crowd that becomes one voice, one pulse, one belief, Kyle Field was never just a stadium. It was, and always will be, the heart of Aggieland. Ready to be amazed by the next groundbreaking construction project? Click on the video now and dive into a world where engineering and imagination collide. See you there!